What would you do if you took down your own pool in your own backyard? But moments later, a furious HOA Karen stormed in with the police, accusing you of crimes you didn't commit. This is the shocking true story of one black man, his home, and a confrontation that turned the whole neighborhood upside down. Quick beat, suspenseful pause. And wait until you hear the twist ending, because trust me, you won't see it coming. This isn't just about a pool. This is about pride, about standing your ground, about how one man's simple act of taking down something he built turned into a storm of accusations, prejudice, and unexpected alliances. It all began on a sweltering summer afternoon, when Marcus, a hard-working father of two, decided to remove his above-ground pool. But little did he know, that act would bring the wrath of the HOA, the judgment of his neighbors, and the police pounding on his door. Marcus had lived in the quiet suburban neighborhood for 5 years. A proud black homeowner, he often reminded himself how far he had come, from a cramped city apartment to a home with a yard where his kids could laugh, splash, and grow up safe. The above-ground pool had been a summer project. He installed it himself, sweat pouring down his back, determined to give his children something special. For years it had been the heart of their summer, birthday parties, barbecues, laughter that carried into the evening. But now the pool was old. Its lining had started to crack, the filter broke down constantly, and after weighing the costs, Marcus decided it was time to take it down. He thought it would be simple, just a few hours of work, but nothing could prepare him for what was coming. This neighborhood had a homeowners association, or HOA. On paper, it was supposed to keep the place beautiful and safe, but in reality, it was ruled by one woman, Linda. Linda was what people behind closed doors called the Karen of the HOA. She had a reputation for storming across lawns with a clipboard, snapping pictures of people's flower beds, even measuring fence heights with a ruler. To Marcus, she was just background noise. He paid his dues, kept his yard neat, and stayed out of trouble, or so he thought. On that hot afternoon, Marcus grabbed his tools and began dismantling the pool. Piece by piece, he took it apart. His kids handed him screws and laughed, splashing each other with the last bit of water that drained out. It was a family moment, a good moment until Linda showed up. She didn't knock. She didn't call. She marched right into Marcus's yard, eyes narrowed, voice sharp as broken glass. "What do you think you're doing?" she barked. Marcus wiped sweat from his forehead, confused. "Taking down the pool. It's mine. Why?" Linda's lips curled. "That pool belongs to the HOA, once it's been up more than 3 years. You can't just remove it." Marcus froze. Surely she was joking, but her glare told him she wasn't. Marcus calmly explained. He bought the pool. He installed it. He maintained it. He had the receipts, but Linda wouldn't budge. She accused him of violating community standards and stealing HOA property. Her voice rose louder and louder until neighbors peeked out their windows. Marcus's kids, once laughing, now clung to his side. Then Linda said the words that made Marcus's blood run cold. "If you don't stop right now, I'll call the police." Most people would have thought it was an empty threat. But 10 minutes later, flashing red and blue lights pulled up in front of Marcus's home. 2 officers stepped out, hands resting on their belts. Linda ran to them, pointing furiously at Marcus. "That man is destroying HOA property." "He's stealing!" Marcus felt the sting, not just of her words, but of the way the officer's eyes scanned him up and down. A black man, tools in hand, accused of theft in his own backyard. His children watched from the porch, fear in their eyes. Marcus knew he had to stay calm. The officers asked him to explain. Marcus walked them through everything. How he bought the pool, how he had receipts, how he decided to dismantle it for safety reasons. Linda interrupted constantly, her shrill voice cutting the air. "He's lying. He's destroying community property. Arrest him." One officer finally turned to Marcus. "Do you have proof this pool is yours?" Marcus's heart pounded. If he didn't, this could spiral out of control. He pulled out a folder from his garage, a folder where he kept every major purchase. With shaking hands, he handed over the original receipt for the pool. The officer studied it, looked at Marcus, then looked at Linda. "This pool belongs to him," the officer said firmly. "He has every right to take it down." Linda's jaw dropped, but instead of backing down, Linda exploded. She screamed about neighborhood standards. She accused the officers of taking his side. She shouted about how this isn't how things are done here. Her voice carried across the street until nearly half the neighborhood gathered outside, watching the scene unfold. And here's the twist. The neighbors weren't siding with Linda, they were siding with Marcus. One by one, neighbors began stepping forward. A woman down the street admitted Linda had fined her for having the wrong shade of curtains. Another man spoke up about being harassed for parking his truck in his own driveway. Linda's grip on the HOA's power was unraveling. Right there on Marcus's lawn, and Marcus, he stood tall, not yelling, not losing control, just standing in quiet dignity as the truth came to light. The officers finally warned Linda, if she didn't calm down, she could be charged for harassment and making false claims. Her face turned beet red. She sputtered, shook with rage, and finally stormed off, muttering threats under her breath. But the damage was done. The neighborhood had seen the truth. Within weeks, a petition circulated to remove Linda from the HOA board. And this time, the community rallied together. Here's the part no one expected. When Marcus finished taking down the pool, he didn't replace it with grass. He didn't pave it over. Instead, he built something new, something for everyone, a community garden. Neighbors who once barely spoke to each other now shared tools, swapped seeds, and laughed together. The same kids who once played in the pool now ran through rows of sunflowers and tomato plants. Marcus hadn't just taken down a pool, he had broken down the walls of division in his neighborhood. And the irony? The garden became the most celebrated feature of the community. Even the HOA, under new leadership, proudly showcased it. One man's quiet strength exposed the truth. One woman's obsession with control crumbled, and an entire neighborhood learned the power of unity over division. Marcus didn't just stand his ground. He changed his community forever. And that's how a simple act of taking down a pool became a fight for dignity, justice, and community. What would you have done if you were Marcus? Let me know in the comments below.